Just to give you a brief summary, Maluti and what's the status? You can see there last year the deficit, and these are nurses' figures that's been submitted. They more or less there. It deviates from our calcs, but you can see last year 294 million was the deficit on the electricity, and we've budgeted from rural side for budget deficit until July next year for 147 million. So you can see there's roughly half improvement in the deficit that we're expecting through the measures that we are taking. Now the challenges that we're facing, typically this whole area, Kwakwa and Tsiami, Kestell, is using too much electricity. The capacity or the peak demand is considerably more than the installed capacity, what the network actually can handle. So that's one of the first issues to resolve. Historically, people connected, new connections, businesses, industry, everybody had new connections. Nobody actually paid for that, and nobody worried about what happened on the upstream side. To the effect that currently there's a penalty demand on average of about 2.5 million rand a month because that demand is being exceeded. Secondly, for Tsiami, there's going to be a new 132 kV line that will have to be built from Harrismith to the industry area. And then in Kwakwa, Eskom is now busy planning a new 132 kV line all the way into Vitsizuk, because that line is totally oversubscribed as well. The operation from the municipality, from now the tariffs were applied to the fact that they haven't paid their bulk account. There's a whole number of instances. The fact that the electricity business wasn't ring-fenced, they weren't in compliance with most of the NERSA license terms and conditions. So we're busy sorting that out as well. The tariffs, a lot of tariffs were implemented based on hearsay, based on two people having a cup of tea together and then getting to some amicable form of what the actual consumption is. No metering is installed, metering not functioning. The tariff components are disproportionate, and typically the prepaid tariffs are on the high side, the prepaid residential tariffs. Also, the residential kilowatt-hour tariffs, the normal account customers, that's also on the high side. The industrial customers were again way on the low side. They were also out together and incorrectly applied. The network, as you know, what you see in the road network, that's basically what happened with the electricity network. I'm sure a lot of you know here in Harrismith, if there are any people from Tsiami as well, from the 4th of September when we had that 4-day outage in Tsiami, we haven't lost the MV in Tsiami yet. And that was an every second day occurrence, the electricity was off in that area. In Harrismith as well, the people should start seeing a drastic improvement in supply, although there are still going to be a number of outages. But we've brought in quite a bit of redundancy into the network. And the only area that's really at risk still is Wilge Park. Wilge Park is hanging on one cable, which is not in a good condition. And if that fails, we have a problem. Those of you that live in Wilge Park would have seen we were busy planting poles. We've already fixed all the cables, the secondary cables feeding Wilge Park. So that's also going to be a thing of the past, or the risk is going to be a thing of the past in the near future. We have trees growing into the lines. We're trying to be as gentle and only cut branches that we actually have to cut. We can afford that on the low voltage side, but on the MV side, which is the backbone, we see that trees are growing into the main supply lines. Like East Sub, for instance, on the other side of the highway, trees are growing into that line, and people don't want us to touch the trees. So we have to decide electricity or tree. And we're busy with that process. People are very sensitive to their trees, but also we need to try and balance trees versus electricity. Then Eskom's time of use tariff structure was, the municipality didn't have a measure to actually counter the time of use structure. because the electricity, basically, there is a change in tariff in winter time, but that jump in winter time wasn't near enough to actually pay the Eskom bill. In winter time, the Eskom bill runs anywhere from 55 to 60 million rand a month, which is up from 25 million in a summertime month. So you can see it's just roughly more than double. Obviously you know that Eskom has issued the disconnection notice for somewhere in the first or the second week of December to actually disconnect Kwakwa, Harrismith, Tiami, Kestel. And I'll give you some background on that. So those are the challenges that we are facing. And the one challenge that I haven't put up on the, just go one back, that I haven't put up on that list is irate customers. Because guys, you've unfortunately, you do have reason to complain. And from our side, that's part of the challenges, is we need to address that and we need to fix it and get you guys sorted. Obviously from our side, if no customer is on our neck, that's what we want. If we don't have to do any more maintenance because we fixed it, and it's only the smaller stuff, that's where we're moving towards. And we're going to get there relatively quickly. Again, you guys must unfortunately be a little bit patient with us. We are getting to that. Now the next slide, just a little bit of background on rural. Where does rural fall out the woodwork? We started yesterday, and you've placed your trust in us in a new company. No, we've been around for 21 years now. We were Eskom's biggest service provider. We started in the township area when Eskom started electrifying townships. What happened there was Eskom installed, and they went down the road, and some of those that may have been involved in the process was because at the time the township customer was a very low using electricity customer. Everything was done as cheaply as possible. Today, the electricity networks in the townships are at quality that's been installed by Eskom, because the guys realized that you can't supply an IFI service cheap and then expect people to pay for it. And we were part of that drive. We took over networks from Eskom where customers went on the rampage, they didn't pay for the electricity, there were big demonstrations because the electricity was never there. It was cheap, but the electricity wasn't there. We serviced about 65,000 customers for Eskom for many years in the early 90s, and where the brief was, guys, please cut our losses. We didn't just cut the losses, we actually turned Eskom a profit on those low rates. How? By actually giving the people a quality service and do it at a reasonable price. So we have been involved, that's our core business, is taking networks and businesses that don't work. We provide the capital. So if in the newspapers I saw that there was a R1 billion deal that rural won, that would have been very nice if there was a R1 billion we could invoice to. But the R1 billion is the amount of money that we envisage we're going to spend in the Kwakwa, Harrismith, Tiami area and Kestel over the next 5 to perhaps 7 years. I don't think it's going to take that long, but that's the level of investment. The money is coming from ourselves as investors. The money at this point in time, we've spent just over 130 million rand to date, hasn't come from a bank, it's come from private individuals who believe in this country. And what are we trying to do with Harrismith? Are we trying to take over the country, or are we even trying to take over the Free State? Not at all. But if we don't step in and we assist the government and we put our money where our mouths is, and we don't do something to actually demonstrate and take the lead and be the example, that if we can turn around Maluti Upper Farm, that's going to give a lot of hope for the rest of the country, and that's what we're hoping for. We're a small company, we're doing about just under 900 million rands worth of turnover a year, and if we can, with our limited resources, turn around a place like Maluti, which we've done in Mafube, we've turned Mafube around. Power failures are a thing of the past. The tariff increase that was passed in Mafube now in June was 3.02%, the average tariff increase. We spent 4 days with NERSA to actually explain to them, because they said, guys, you need to take 7% tariff increase, that's what's approved. We don't want 7%, we want 3.02%. Because remember, our mandate that we got from our shareholders is to make electricity affordable and be one of the 10 top suppliers or 10 cheapest suppliers of electricity in South Africa. Currently, there's just under 300 supply authorities in South Africa providing electricity. We want to be one of the 10 cheapest of those 300 supply authorities. That was a clause that we imposed on ourselves. Treasury, National Treasury, in fact, asked us, are we sure we want to have that in the contract? Are we sure we'll be able to manage that? And we were quite comfortable with that. So as far as going forward is concerned, that's what we're going to go forward. We need to, and the only way we're going to bring jobs into the rural areas, and not rural Free State areas, but into the rural areas of the country, is by us providing affordable services and quality service delivery. If we can bring those two, that's what our aim is. So we have been in the business for quite a while. As far as Maluti Apefong is concerned, we started our negotiations with Maluti Apefong in 2011. I've seen some articles in the newspapers where it's been mooted that rural suddenly appeared on the scene and we were appointed and there was a contract signed and that was that. No, we've been, the whole contract was actually debated and formed with the previous management when it was still Steve Cow as municipal manager, and the financial director was Mr. Romalundi. So this, what we've been busy with now, has come for a very long time. We actually waited for National Treasury's approval, and National Treasury approval comes in the form of a formal no objection. They don't approve something, they just formally don't object to it being implemented, and we received that formal no objection in March. Hence is why the contract was signed in April. Then in Namibia, we've been doing what we're doing in Maluti now since 1999 in Namibia. Nampower is the Eskom in Namibia. We have been, since 1999, we haven't paid one invoice to Nampower late, not one day late. We have quite a solid track record there. We've done a lot of work in the private sector, typically Absa Bank. We look after all the Absa Bank branches as far as the utilities, electricity, water in the whole country. That's also our responsibility, not our core business, but that's something that we could do in South Africa, which in the time when the regional distributors, the Reds, a lot of you may know about the Reds, where Harrismith would have formed part of Bloemfontein, Sentlek, Cape Town, all those municipalities would have become one municipality. So we couldn't work and apply our trade in South Africa because the model couldn't fit our model. Now that the Reds have been scrapped, and the Reds have been scrapped in 2011, April 2011 by government, that's when we could actually implement and we could market our services to work in South Africa. There's our 300 campaign. For those of you access to internet, you can go onto YouTube, type in rural maintenance. You'll see a whole background video of the group, what our facets are, and you'll also see there's a 300K campaign video. There it says, there's three things we want to do: bring jobs closer, make electricity cheaper, and make sure that electricity doesn't stop, because that's what we need for economic development. We can't do it without energy. Then, as far as Maluti is concerned, I briefly touched on that. We started 2011. National Treasury, no objection, 27th of March. The contract was signed on the 2nd of April. National Treasury confirms in writing that the process was in substantial compliance to the Municipal Systems Act and the Municipal Finance Management Act. We've had meetings with the previous municipal management and mayor in National Treasury, with a very senior delegation in National Treasury. After somewhere here in June, July, we saw the wheels were coming off. If the wheels came off last year, all we would have done was simply walked away, because it hasn't cost us money at that stage, or it's cost us very little. It wouldn't have been a problem. Since we signed the contract, we passed the point of no return in the amount of money that we spent. Hence we had to make sure that normally when two parties fight with one another, there's a third party that gets trampled underfoot. And that's basically what we did. We obtained a High Court order against the municipality's interference, so that we can actually deliver the services while this thing goes through the motions of the court. Whether it's going to be another 3 or 6 months before we get clarity, or whether it's going to be 2 years. In the meantime, there's clarity. We actually can continue, we can deliver the services. And one of the questions there was, council is still invoicing. Now, one of your political leaders here in Harrismith spoke to the municipal manager, and he wasn't aware, the acting municipal manager, he wasn't aware that the invoices were still going out. The invoices are going out in total contravention. We have the network, we have the advertisements on the radio, we are allowed, apart from the one over the weekend. I don't know who did that interview, but we have access to the radio. We can legally advertise, we can legally provide the services. So the municipality is not allowed to come and disconnect electricity. Having said that, if the municipality asks us to say customer 1 or 2 or 3, they have not been paying their rates and taxes, they have not been paying their water account, here's all the interventions that we have tried to get our money from the customer over many years, please disconnect that customer's electricity. And that is a bona fide request. We are going to then disconnect the electricity. But other than that, for trying to disconnect electricity just because they're still invoicing, that legally cannot happen. From the 1st of September, and that was the other question that was there, when is rural responsible? Rural is responsible from the 1st of September. So any electricity drawn from Eskom from the 1st of September, we are responsible for. Any revenue that we need to collect is only for the electricity that we receive from the 1st of September. So everything prior to the 1st of September, in other words, the end of August, you still have to pay your electricity to the municipality for electricity consumption before the 1st of September. After the 1st of September, it's rural. Now, unlike what has happened previously with the electricity money that you paid, rural has collected very little, but we've paid over 39.26 million rand to Eskom already, and the next invoice is due in 2 weeks. We expect to receive it Monday, Tuesday, and that we have to pay Eskom within 2 weeks. And historically, the municipality, you could pay the municipality in 30 days, you pay us in 2 weeks from invoice date. Why pay us in 2 weeks? Because we have to pay Eskom within 2 weeks. We are on a very stringent, tight schedule with Eskom. We are in constant communication with Eskom. We are a significant user of electricity with Eskom for many years now. We have a good track record. So what we're hoping for is we are collecting as much electricity money as possible. We're paying that over to Eskom in the hope that come December, how is Eskom going to disconnect Maluti if the bleeding has stopped? Yes, there's a historical amount of 200 and perhaps at that stage 210 million that's still due, but at least the electricity that's being consumed now is being paid for by the customers, and we are settling that account towards Eskom. There's the Eskom disconnection notice, and that's the one thing, the Maluti capacity is being exceeded. The old tariffs of Maluti don't cater for winter tariffs, and again, winter time of use is what Eskom is charging. Where does time of use tariffs come from? Time of use tariffs come from the fact that there is not enough electricity in South Africa to supply everybody living in South Africa. So there were two options. The one option that went to the South African negotiating platform in Nedlag was to say self-governance. In other words, self-governance means, what do? They change the tariff. They make the tariff prohibitively expensive when there is no electricity. They make the tariff cheap when they have surplus electricity. And then it's your choice. So if you want to use electricity when it's very expensive, it's your choice. If you want to use it when it's cheap, it's your choice. That's the one option. The other option that was put on the table was Eskom will load shed for you. So everybody said, oh, please, just not that. And that's why the option of time of use came onto the table, and that was debated, and time of use tariffs have been implemented. The only unfortunate side effect is municipalities didn't have the money to implement time of use for their customers. So what happened? Customers carried on with their business, used the electricity as they've always used it, but the municipality is being penalized, and they are paying huge amounts for that same electricity because of time of use. So time of use is coming. That's the one thing from February, businesses and large industry are going to get mock accounts, where they get the actual account, and they're going to get an account as if time of use tariffs were applied, so that every customer can see what is the difference in that tariff. And remember, with time of use, you can actually shift your load. If you're willing to bake, call it on a Saturday or a Sunday, you're going to pay perhaps an eighth that you were going to pay in winter time during peak time. That's massive savings. So the choice is going to be there. When are you going to use electricity? Is going to determine how much your electricity bill is concerned. Somebody is going to use 100 kilowatt hours and he may pay more than somebody that uses 400 kilowatt hours. Okay? Then payment for electricity. If we can go to the next slide, please, Sandy. We act in compliance with the bylaws. We act in compliance with the regulator's terms and conditions of its supply license and the Occupational Health and Safety Act. So on the one side, you guys are very happy because we're starting to fix networks. You're going to see that the electricity interruptions are going to become less and less. When the wind blows, the electricity doesn't go off every time. It may still now happen. If the rain falls, immediately everybody is off. You're still going to find some of that, but we are making serious inroads into fixing those solutions. But what's the other flip side? The flip side is everybody kind of, if I say everybody, that's unreasonable of me, but a lot of people did what they wanted to do. We have to bring back those standards. If we want a reliable electricity supply and we want affordable tariffs, we have to operate according to a set of guidelines and a set of rules. So those are coming in. It's not that it's negative, but it may be uncomfortable for some people going forward. If we can go to the next slide. Where do you get info on rural? Type in ruralfreestate.co.za. There you can see it on the top. There's the address. That's what the typical home screen looks like. What we do here, you put in your account number and your password. Our customer care will provide you with that. But those of you that don't have a username and password can actually access any of the advisories, or the vending stations, or the on-the-job opportunities, or the pay points. Now the pay points gives us, if you click on that tab, you're going to see where can you pay your actual account. Where's the terminal? So if you don't want to do an EFT or you don't want to go into the bank, in which shop can you actually pay your electricity account? They listed there under pay points. Then if you come down to vending stations, where can I buy my prepaid electricity? Our vending stations are listed in there, and I think, Sandeep, you were involved with that. Are we sitting with about 50 prepaid vending stations? There's 50 locations where you actually can buy prepaid electricity. Excuse me, obviously not just in Harrismith, but in Kokko as well. And then the advisories. If you click on the advisories, this presentation of tonight, you're going to see it on the advisories. It is there. You can download it, plus a whole host of other information. The tariffs are there. The actual NERSA tariffs, the copy of the NERSA tariffs are published there. Everything that could make your life easy is on that advisory tab. When you want to see your electricity account, that's when you type in your account number and your password. You will say whether you're obviously a Militia Perform, you're falling within the Militia Perform. You click here on Militia Perform. That will take you to that database. Then you can see your electricity account online. If you want copies of 6 months ago or 10 years ago, you're going to still be able to print all those copies of your tax invoices. You don't need to stand in a line to get a copy of the tax invoice. Next to every tax invoice, there's a button that says Profile. You click on that profile button and you actually can see the graphs of your consumption. And you can change the graph. So if you're a manufacturing body and you want to know how much electricity you've used from Monday 10 o'clock in the morning until Tuesday 6 o'clock at night, you can put in the date and the time and it will only provide you with those graphs. And then there's on that same slide, there's a meter reading tab. You click on there and you can actually see what your meter readings were. When we take meter readings, we take photographs of those meter readings. That's why we've changed all the meters to new electronic solid state meters.
We take pictures of those meters, and if you go and click on your meter reading, you'll see there's a little photograph button next to the meter reading. You click on that button, you can actually see your meter and the meter reading displayed on the screen. Now, why is that so important for us? Because it gives you guys the opportunity to check us, help us. If there's a mistake, mistakes happen, and especially in the way that this takeover has gone, a lot of things hasn't gone right, and we apologize for that, but at least we're hoping to give you guys the tools to help us, and we can fix. So you can see, there's the meter. Is it my meter? You can walk outside into the box, you'll see that meter is actually the meter in the box. So out of this website, you'll be able to find quite a considerable amount of meter. Customer care, how do you contact us? We foresee that in future, we are going to do away with the call center number. The call center number is there. You can use it. In September, and there was a comment earlier in the evening, in September the telephone just rings at the call center, so probably there's nobody there. No, because we had a fault. If there's a little line fault somewhere, we've just lost 60,000 customers because there's no protection on the little section of line that had the fault. So 60,000 people are sitting without electricity. What do you think happens with a call center number? There's not enough people in the suburb area to actually staff the call center to take all those calls, because everybody is reporting. But that is the one option, is the call center number. The second option that's on there is you can send us an email, maluti@remic.co.za. And the other one that we have is the SMS line. You send your details and what the fault is via SMS to that 44626 number. You will get a reference back as well. Then we know about it. A lot of times, however, people send us SMSs to 44626, and I think they send it from somebody else's phone or from a public phone. When we call back to get further details, we can't speak to anybody. Nobody answers, or the phone doesn't go anywhere. So it's important, if you do make use of these facilities, please use it from a cell phone that actually has airtime, or a cell phone that is answered, so that we can get in touch with you to resolve the issue. Then we've also, in addition to all the work we've done, there's roughly 120 new people that we've employed, that we're training, that we're bringing up with expertise and in our culture, and it is going to take a little bit of time as well. But the only way those people are going to learn is if they do, unfortunately, make a few mistakes, and we will try and make that lead time as short as possible. What's the progress that we've made to date? There you can see the completed projects that we have done. The Bergview supply upgrade, Nowen's upgrade, Nestle feed upgrade, Lancaster in the industrial area behind the truck inn, the Villiers Street upgrade, Greenlands, that big transformer, we have a 132 11 kV transformer in Greenlands that feeds in the street one. That was running without oil. If we didn't have that 4-day shutdown to change all the gaskets and fix the oil, that transformer would have gone. We would have sat without electricity for anywhere from 8 to 14 months. We're not talking about 4 days or a day without electricity. We're talking a year or two. And that's the challenge that we have. We're busy fixing big stuff, and it may seem as if the smaller items we're not worried about. Far from it. We want to look after every small item, but we've managed now to fix all the big ticket items. This last line into Wilge Park, once that's done, we really have the smaller items left in Harrismith. We have the smaller items in Kestel, and we have the really small items left in Tiami in the Streetwa area. So we are making a considerable amount of progress. Kestel, there was a big issue about the quality of supply. Then it's up, then it's down. We've installed the metering equipment on the HT side to make sure where is the problem. Is the problem coming from Eskom side? Is it on our network? Because we need to fix these items. Then another contentious issue in Harrismith, the east side of the highway. the power failure is normally originated because of the Bosbo line that runs through the mountain. So if there's a problem with that line and there's a problem with the protection, it takes out the whole east sub. We've installed new protection devices at the start of that Bosbo line, and we're cutting the line going over the highway. This section of the highway is going to be fed from the industrial area. So we're making that ring a lot smaller. The supply is going to be a lot more sturdy. And we hope that especially now in this travel season and with the holidays coming up, that all the businesses are going to have a better electricity supply there going forward. East sub, the new lines that, or these old overhead lines that cross the highway at the off-ramp, on the second off-ramp, Harrismith off-ramp, that line has been upgraded. Those of you looking closely would see all the new insulators have been installed. We don't think that, because previously if it rained and those insulators got wet, we had a flash and the electricity was off. That's also resolved. In Knox Street, there's been a huge number of MV cables which were broken. They had been damaged underground, and all of those cables have been remedied as well. There isn't, am I safe to say, I know of no cable that is faulty at this point in time. And the last 6 faulty underground cables in Kwakwa, we've also found those. They're busy opening up the cables where the failures occurred. So by Monday next week, there isn't going to be one cable that's faulty even in Kwakwa on the medium voltage. Now, what are we still busy with? We're only doing emergency project upgrades at this point in time. We haven't yet started on our planned upgrade process. We're just fixing the big ticket items. So the Bosbo line upgrade, we expect that before our one technical team responsible for that has given their undertaking that this side of the highway they want to have finished. We'll see whether they make that commitment. The Venom line upgrade, together with Volga Feeder Park, that as well. Tree cutting, metering replacements is nearly all done. We've changed nearly everybody's electricity meter. That's not on a prepaid, but that's on a conventional, with a new electronic meter, free of charge. You would have seen there would be no costs on your account. And then the most important thing that you see at the bottom of the list, single line diagrams. How do you fix a problem if you don't know where it is? Now, we didn't know where anything was. Not in Harrismith, not in Kwakwa. We've just received back our aerial photographs. We've done one in, I think it's, well, I can see the dogs in the yard if we look on the aerial photograph. So the resolution is fabulous, which means we will have all our single line diagrams and plans and documents before the end of this year, which means 2014 start. We can actually start with proper documentation and paperwork to do all our planning. The next slide. There you can see in that green block, right at the bottom, you'll see a yellow portion there with Mafube. NERSA did a complete audit on us last year in November and December to actually see what is happening in Mafube with the first private sector player actually delivering services. We took those rates, or the ranking, we took it from in the 5% mark to 81% in 8 months. And that's what we do. So we try and get as much done, and we expect the same to happen now in 2014 on the Military network. And we would hope, although the Military customer base is sitting at 100,000, Mafube was on 12,000. Mafube was smaller, it was easy to accomplish. We're still expecting that same type of compliance to get it over the 80% mark with our first audit. Now, the higher that 80% mark, you can see there's only one entity that's higher than us, and that is Umjindi with 16,000 customers. Also a small municipality on that board. Now, the higher the score, all that means is the service delivery is so much better on average. We can't satisfy every person's problem, but overall, on average, there's a huge improvement. And a lot of you would have seen, obviously, this double invoicing and a wrong electricity account from rural because we didn't have any customer detail to actually start off with. you would see there's a drastic improvement going forward.